favorite games of all time that is unfortunately dead and will never have another update again, but that's alright, which is Evolve. This is actually Evolve Stage 2, which you can only get through Steam, I believe, but it is free. Original Evolve doesn't exist, and Stage 2 won't get anything. But anyway, these are all the hunters and monsters. So if you've never played Evolve, what it is you get 4 hunters, which are Assault, Medic, Support, and Trapper, to find and kill the monster. There are different game modes and shit, but... So, as far as abilities, every single monster has their own 4 unique abilities, as well as every hunter. But every class of hunter, such as Medic, all have a heal burst. Assaults have a personal shield, so they can take more damage. Supports have an invisibility cloak for themselves and people close to them in proximity. And then Trappers originally were the only people that could dome the monster or trap them in an area, but now they have a planet scanner to essentially help them better find the monster, and every hunter now has a dome. But let's get into it, and we're going to start off with my favorite, the boy, the man, the buzz, the legend, Slim. Easily the best medic in the game by far, with how much damage he can put out as well as how much healing. So we'll start with the worst thing that he has, which is his Spore Cloud grenade. So he shoots a grenade at the monster, which makes the monster not be able to essentially smell and or see the hunters very well. Obviously they can still see them, but when you're not spore clouded, they kind of glow a little red, so you can see them easier, so that will take it away. It's alright, nothing crazy. It's not gonna save you any games necessarily, but it's decent at times. So then he has a healing drone. So his healing drone he can send out to anybody within like 80 meters, I think, which is honestly pretty big. As well as the healing drone can revive somebody that's on the ground, so you can just keep on fighting and doing what you want while you know the drone is healing them. Now if they do get hurt, or the person you throw the healing drone on does get hurt as well, the healing drone will disappear, it will be gone. So you have to watch out for that a little bit. And then what's most important about Slim is his gun. So his gun is actually a leech gun. So the more damage he does with it, the faster his heal burst that every medic has regens. So I think it's like 3 or 4 hit shots with his gun will automatically get a health burst regen. So as long as, and I think it's like 12 in a clip, so you can literally just like heal burst insanely so long as you're doing enough damage. So he's definitely minimum at least the best damaging medic. I would say the best healing medic as well by far also. Just between that as well as having the heal drone. So he's pretty nasty. He's probably my favorite medic in the game. Probably my favorite in the game, to be honest, because he's so good. And definitely if you aren't playing as him, he's definitely going to be good on your team, period. And then we'll go with Maggie. This is easily, both of versions of her are the best trappers in the game by far. So Maggie has this pet trapjaw, which automatically follows the monster. It can always find the monster no matter what. So as long as you're following it, you'll eventually catch up to the monster or find it, see it, etc. And that's easily why she's the best trapper, is because everybody else kind of relies on the monster to not necessarily make a mistake, but kind of fall into something or do something loud or, you know, something like that. But Maggie can just, this is the best person for a new player, or even, you know, anybody that just wants to guarantee that you find the monster, especially on the hunt game mode and not other ones. And then she has harpoon traps, which she puts down. So this is Fire Maggie, actually. So this original Daisy, and Daisy can pick revive hunters as well. But original Daisy just tracks. This one tracks and has a flamethrower attached to her. And then Maggie's gun, which is the machine pistol, doesn't really do that much damage, but that's not really her purpose, to be honest. Her machine pistol just, has fire, and then her harpoon traps, and then her harpoon traps have fire. So nothing crazy, but easily the best trappers in the game, even more so for new players or newer players, especially on Hunt. Now, other game modes like Arena and everything, honestly, I would still use her because just having Daisy, especially the fire version of Daisy and her, is so nice because it's, just a whole other person that the monster has to deal with more damage, as well as having someone that can revive as well is huge. So definitely use Maggie for sure. We'll do our first monster. We're just gonna go crazy S tier. We'll go behemoth S tier as well. So what happens with monsters is they have a natural health bar, and then they have what you can call armor or shield, whichever one you prefer. Health bar is always the same, and every time you evolve it gets bigger, but anytime that your actual health bar is damaged, that health will never regen. Absolutely never. Your armor and shield naturally regens, as well as when you kill and eat wildlife, that's how you gain that as well as your being able to evolve. But Behemoth has the most health in the game out of all monsters by a pretty significant amount. His abilities aren't the best, and he is the slowest, but he's honestly not that much slower compared to the other monsters. But he has a lava bomb, which isn't crazy, but it does do a pretty big area effect. He has a rock wall, which is nice to separate hunters, or just, put it up and dip. He does have a tongue pull as well to, pull in a hunter, so that might be nice to also pull somebody in and then rock wall behind him. And then his best ability is honestly the Fisher, so he just slams the ground kind of like some Hulk smash shit, and it does kind of a cone area effect of damage in front of him. He's not the most damaging monster, but he honestly doesn't have to be. He just has to, kind of out tank you and evolve up to stage 3 and then murder you from there. But he's definitely solid. And fuck it, we'll continue with the S tier and go Lynx. So Lynx is an assault character. She's grandma in a big ass mech suit. Easily the most damaging assault in the game by far. I would say like on probably a whole other level, or at least the possibility of being able to. So the gun that you see right here is an autocannon. It's basically a big ass LMG. It's the only distance weapon that she has, but it does do pretty decent damage for being, a decent LMG distance gun. And then she has a Thunder Strike, which she basically jumps up in the air and slams down the ground. It does decent damage. It's not that hard to hit, but if you miss it, then, obviously just don't fucking miss. And then her most damaging is actually, they call it a lance, but it's not what you would think. It's actually like a laser lance. So she has to get close enough to the monster to essentially like strike them with this laser that comes out of her arm really quick. And what it does is it then has a few second timer and 4 stages to this timer. So you hit your first strike, you're on essentially stage 1. If you can hit it again, you're going to stage 2 and doing more damage, and you still have this reset timer. Go to 3 and then 4, and obviously each stage you're doing more damage. The problem is if you miss or you get damaged or something, then your whole thing is reset. So the potential for you to have there is insane, especially being that close. But there is kind of a downside to it. But even if you're just hitting like the stage 1 lance, it does pretty decent damage for, an assault character at least. So the upside to her is insane. No matter what area, how far away they are, she's doing good. So definitely use her if you can. She's probably the best assault in the game for sure. Let's go. I'm not gonna put anybody in D tier because everybody is useful in their own way or their own game mode. And some items or abilities or weapons do carry some people. So we'll start on the lower end with Sunny. So what Sunny does is she has a grenade launcher. It does pretty good damage so long as you hit the shot, obviously. And then her problem is she has a little shield drone, which is good if you can, first off, put it out and make sure it doesn't get hit. And then what it does is it basically has so much shield that it will shield the other hunters from taking damage. It does have a cap amount and it will recharge if all the shield essentially gets taken away, and it can be damaged. It's not that hard to deal with as a monster, and most monsters will honestly target it just because it's annoying, and it essentially is Sunny's biggest carry. And then her other ability is probably one of the more lackluster ones in the game, which is just a jetpack booster. So you essentially attach it to another hunter, and they have, like, I think if you literally use it 2 to 3 times, it's fully done, and then you have to like wait a super long time for it to regen. In certain situations, is it helpful or a saving grace to someone? Sure, but when you're trying to make sure you have a shield drone out, possibly do damage, and then jetpack boost, she's not really that viable. There's so many better support carries that are just way more consistent than her, and even at her best, she's a B tier support unit or hunter, just because overall, if she's not getting the shield out or it's not doing as much, it's not as useful. And her grenade launcher, while it does do decent damage, you obviously have to hit the shot. So yeah, she's unfortunately pretty shit. I'm gonna put, where'd he go? I'm missing him. Abe down there with her. So Abe's problem is that for him to be the best trapper, he's terrible at his job, to be honest. That's the biggest reason why he's down here. So what he does to find the monster is actually shoot tracking darts into the wildlife around the map and essentially hope that the monster eats that wildlife. And you only have, I think you can only like put out 6 to 8-ish darts and all the wildlife on the map, and hope that the monster eats it. So other than that, you're going to be running around trying to find the monster, and that shit sucks. His shotgun does decent damage, nothing crazy. If it's close range, you can kind of like auto fire it, and if it's long, you can make it kind of slug shot. But it's, I mean, obviously trappers aren't meant to do that much damage. They're meant to find the monster and or slow it down, which the biggest thing that honestly carried him into C is his stasis grenades, which the grenades itself are probably A tier if not S tier, because you can throw them and no matter where they are, they will attach and stay there for X amount of time. And when and if you hit it with the monster, or the monster runs into it, around it, or whatever, it will slow the monster for, I think, like 5 to 8 seconds or something, which is insane to definitely slow down a monster, especially someone like Wraith or Kraken or even Goliath that's very mobile. So having that is huge. But other than that, if he's not throwing those or not throwing enough of them or not hitting them, then he's pretty much the worst trapper in the game by far, I would say. So since we're talking about some of the monsters, we'll go Wraith. And at best, I have to put her in B. And the biggest reason why, and like we talked about with Behemoth and Health, so essentially Goliath and Kraken and I believe even Gorgon have essentially about the same health, which is like, I would just say medium, because that's the only thing you can base it off of. And Behemoth has the most, and then Wraith has the least, mostly because she's the most mobile. She is hard to hit, especially hit headshots if you're trying to do that, to do more damage. And her abilities are very in and out. So she has a decoy, which the decoy will spawn for a few seconds. It will, maybe do a hit on the hunters or something, but nothing crazy. And she has an ability where you warp blast. You go into an area of the hunters and then essentially blast the area. It does do decent damage. The problem is that that's honestly a shit ability for her, because then she's around all the hunters and doesn't have really an escape route except just trying to get out of there. She does have an abduct, which is honestly one of the best things to use and hit for Wraith, but it is very hard to hit. So she essentially stays where she's at. She goes, grabs someone, and comes back to where she was. That's great to separate a hunter, and can definitely get you some top tier kills. And then her last ability is Supernova, which is possibly her best. So she takes less damage and does way more damage, and can attack super fast. So that's super helpful for her, especially if she has honestly probably the best kit for her, because you can play around with it and work with it a bunch of different ways. But honestly, in this game, how important health is and not taking damage and everything, it's very easy if you have a decent hunter team to just shred through Wraith's armor to get to her health and then kill her. And unless she has some solid perks and stuff going on, then it's going to be pretty easy to deal with her, to be honest, other than the fact that she's pretty mobile and fast. But if you can do that or trap her decently, then it will not be a problem. Let's do Calla. So Calla is decent. She's a support hunter. She does decent damage with her orbs. Nothing crazy, but the biggest thing that carries her into B is the fact that she has essentially an armor drain. So what she does is, like I've been talking about with the monsters, is that they have armor that you have to get through and then to health. But they can always regain the armor and shield back, but they can never regain the health. So what she does is she actually takes away, not takes away, but I guess that's the best term for it, negates the monster's shield, so then you can already start doing actual health damage. Now if once this ability drains out and stops, or the monster damages her or whatever to make her stop doing that, the shield is right back. But it's nice if you're not being targeted to essentially drain that and get some actual health damage going already. And that definitely carries her into B for sure, and especially if you have your other teammates that are paying attention to when you are doing this, you can definitely kind of get ahead in the game a little bit and do some actual health damage for sure, which is great. The biggest reason why she is only in B is because her teleport pads are garbage. So you have to obviously put down 2 to be able to teleport to either or of them. So you somewhat want to place them far away or something. So if you're in the dome and you're running around doing that, you're not really helping the team too much, in my opinion at least. And especially if you're putting them just kind of around the map, that can honestly cost you the game if somebody hits a teleporter and teleports hundreds of thousands of meters across the map and can't get back. And the teleporters can be destroyed from the monster. So huge risk, not a whole lot of reward for her, but in something like Arena, when it's just you guys versus the monster in a dome straight up, she's pretty good because she can do some heavy damage but the teleport pads are a huge no-no. Who do we want to do next? Let's go. We're gonna put Markov in B. I think Markov is one of the easier assault hunters to use. And saying that, there's a reason, which is that he probably does the least amount of damage out of all the assault hunters. So he has a lightning gun, and that's it. That, you know, just attach it. You have to be relatively close to do it. Then he has an assault rifle, which is, you know, spoken for. Don't need to tell you what that is. And then he has mines, which the mines are easily the most damaging thing in his kit. The problem is that you only have 3, and the monster can see them relatively decently, as well as just be able to jump or move around them. So his upside is there for sure, and how easy he is to use is there for sure as well. But as far as actual, you know, getting his job done and doing his job well enough, it is not the best. Sorry, I gotta take these sweatpants off. I'm sweating. So yeah, he has some potential upside. He's not bad by any means, but as far as, you know, actual assault damage, if you're playing that or you have Markov as a teammate, he's definitely, you gotta kind of help him out. Use some support or medic or trapper carries that are more damaging than something else. So we'll do the variation of Markov. So if you see some of these guys that look different, they did come out with a few variations for some hunters and monsters. So the other version, which is Blitz Markov, I would put an A. So his lightning gun has levels to it. The longer you hold it, the more damage it will continuously do. The assault rifle is the same. Nothing different there. And then the mines actually do the same as the lightning gun in the sense of you place them down, they're almost at, I guess you could say, like level 1, and after a few seconds they keep leveling up to essentially do higher damage. So the longer you can have that mine on the ground before the monster hits it, the much more damage you're going to do, and that potential for him is even higher because of that. And especially with his lightning gun too, if you can get that charge all the way up and you're not being attacked, or the monster is not being too mobile to where you can stay attached to him. But definitely much more damage output with him, and definitely a solid pickup for sure. Honestly, I don't remember Glacier Goliath at all, but since Goliath is up there, I'll put him up there as well. I would imagine he does mostly the same overall abilities most people do. They're just a little different from the variations or the original ones. But Behemoth is honestly just very difficult to deal with because they have so much health. And I know I haven't said this yet, but you have essentially 3 downs as a hunter. So you go down once, you get picked up, you are forever down to 75% health. If you go down again and get picked up, you are down to 50% health for the rest of the game as well. And then you go down a 3rd time, you're dead. So since we said that, we're going to bring up Lazarus. And Lazarus has to be minimum A for sure. And I think I have to keep him there. So what Lazarus does, since we're still on the topic of revives, and like I just said, every time you are downed, you lose 25% of your overall health when you're picked up. It cannot be regained. But if Lazarus uses his ability, which is his Lazarus device, that is negated. You are still at full health when you get picked up. So he is the man you want reviving on your team. He's obviously a medic. He does have a heal burst, but he does not have any other medical help. That is essentially his medical help. If you go down because he essentially can't heal you as much as other medics, then when he picks you up with his Lazarus device, you do not lose that percentage of health for the remainder of the game, which is honestly insane. That's easily the biggest reason he's up here. He also has, on top of the actual medic ability of healing, he has the support's ability as one of his, which is the invisibility cloak. So he has healing, can go invisible to then Lazarus device you, and then his gun is just a sniper rifle, but his sniper rifle, that's actually more of a DMR than it is a sniper, creates hit points or armor points. So if you create these points and another hunter, let's just say Markov with his assault rifle, hits the point that you created, it's going to do more damage because it's basically like it's almost like an armor pierce type of deal. So the potential for Lazarus is there. The only reason why he's not an S is because as far as healing itself goes, he's the worst. But he's not even that bad because obviously he still just has the regular medic heal, and it gets picked up as far as if you do go down, you're not losing any health as long as it's by his Lazarus device. If he regular revives you, you're still losing that amount of health for the remainder of the game. But the potential for Lazarus on your team is very, very huge. Let's go Crow. I'll put Crow in B, but it's like a B minus. So Crow probably has the most things to do, which honestly is a little overwhelming. So much like Abe's stasis grenade, he has a stasis gun. So you can either shoot it quickly, which only kind of slows the monster for 1 second per shot, so kind of worthless. So you want to charge it, and it'll slow them for a couple seconds, which is great. And it's not a bad weapon. It does no damage, though. Then he has a sniper rifle. Now, the sniper rifle shots don't do that much damage, but, you know, Trapper, again, isn't supposed to be the damage dealer itself. But if you do charge the sniper rifle, it will actually pierce through the armor and do actual health damage. So there is some damage potential there, at least some that you can't fully see all the time. And then he has Gobi, which is his bat to find the monster. Now, the Gobi is the biggest reason why he's in B, because you think that the stasis grenade, or not, the stasis gun and the sniper rifle are good. They're not. They're honestly, you have to hit the stasis gun well enough, and it lasts so much less than like a stasis grenade from Abe that it's not the best. And he does not do very much damage at all. He's one of the better trappers at his job as far as tracking the monster with Gobi, because you can put that out and the bat flies in a pretty long distance area of the map, and then comes right back to you, and he can spam that out pretty significantly, pretty quickly all the time. But after that, he is iffy. And the problem is, most hunters, most monsters that are smart are going to be attacking either the medic or the trapper 99% of the time, because no matter what game mode you're playing, they are more than likely the people you need to be downing. So pay attention to that. But he's alright. He's just alright. We'll just leave it at that. Bucket, my boy, one of my favorites. I can't put him in S, unfortunately, but he is an A tier support hunter. So his worst thing, and the biggest reason why I can't put him in S, is that he has essentially a UAV, but that is his head. So he takes his head off, and then his body stands there, and you move around his head around the map, trying to track and find the monster. It's decent. It can be helpful, especially if you can't find the monster, or your tracker isn't very good at his job, or whatever, or maybe they're dead. But having standing still can make you very vulnerable, obviously, as well as you won't be there with your team all the time. So that's a big downfall for him. But as far as supports, he is easily the most damaging support hunter in the game. He has a guided missile launcher. So, you know, if you got a mobile monster running around, it's pretty easy to guide the missile and continuously do some heavy damage with that. As well as he can put down 3 little sentry guns. Now, the sentry guns, while don't do an insane amount of damage, the fact that you can have 3 and really get some high damage output in a small area is disgusting. It's also a decent way to defend a hunter that might be down or something. So the damage potential, you know, if you have a Markov as assault or something, or a low damage assault carry, then Bucket is definitely your guy to pick up the slack in the support role for sure. And one of my favorites to play, or used to play. Let's go a monster. We'll go with Gorgon. I'm gonna put Gorgon in B. Honestly, I don't think the Gorgon's that great. As far as mobility, she's up there. Wraith is definitely the most, but she's not that far behind her. But Gorgon's overall kit is just honestly not that great. I think there is some potential there, but being able to use her kit is not amazing. So her best thing is her acid spit, so it does a pretty high amount of damage and obviously creates an area of acid. So if they're stepping in it just naturally, whether you're puking it on them or not, it does high amount of damage and definitely her best ability. And then she has a web snare that she kind of like shoots out and kind of slows the hunters for a few seconds. It doesn't do that much damage, but a little bit of slow, a little bit of damage, nothing crazy. And then her 2 worst or most questionable is she has a spider that she can shoot out that kind of burrows into the ground and waits for a hunter to be nearby, and then it will essentially snatch them and take them away. It can be nice in multiple ways, whether it's by itself or even in the fight, to kind of take someone away or out of the fight. The problem is you have no way of knowing who it's going to take, unfortunately. And it can be shot when it's in the ground, and it can be shot obviously when it has a hunter or when it's running to grab the hunter. So the downfall is pretty big as well. And then her last one, the worst one I would say, is a mimic. So she actually creates a version of herself really quick, and then she's standing still. And then you essentially control the mimic for a few seconds and try to get it to explode all over the hunters. It doesn't do that much damage, and it's not really going to save you, but I think the biggest reason why she's in B is mostly just because her acid spit and the potential there of the spider taking someone away or out of the fight, because then they have to deal with the spider as well to save the other hunter, or the spider will just consume it, which is great. And she has pretty good mobility as well. She's hard to hit and definitely hard to headshot, much like the Wraith. But nothing crazy, nothing that you can't kill pretty significantly all the time, I would say. Kyra for medic. I think I just have to keep her in B. So what Kyra does is she actually has an area effect healing gun. So she shoots these little lob balls of heal, and anybody in the area where the ball pops is healed. So she can definitely heal multiple people around her, or just shoot it at her feet and heal herself, as well as if there's people around her, or if, you know, the monster is, you know, kind of grouping up on a few people, she can lob it in and get some heals on both. and she can pick people up this way. All medics pretty much have an ability to revive someone with their stuff, so keep that in mind. The problem with her healing is that it's very small. I would say for actual healing, it's probably the least amount. And obviously the reason for that is you can hit multiple targets, but it's very, very little. The monster can easily out damage it. And then she has a napalm gun, which is honestly the same gun. It just she like switches it whether she's gonna heal or shoot the napalm lobs. They don't do that much damage, nor should they, because she's a medic and it's only one at a time. But you know, being able to hit one and do some fire damage over a few seconds is decent. And then she has an acceleration field, so herself and anyone around her gets a speed boost for, I think it's like 15 seconds, which is honestly a good amount of time. So if you're, you know, trying to run away from the monster, run to the monster, it's great. And even in the fights, just having that extra mobility for you and anyone around you for that amount of time, it can definitely save you. But I think the biggest reason why she's only in B is just because the lack of consistency or maximum healing you can get from her. But she's definitely not bad. I think it's just, again, it's hard to get a lot of healing done with her because it's so small. So you pretty much just have to focus on lobbing those. And if it's just one hunter, honestly, it's even worse because you're not getting the ability to heal everyone else if need be. Let's do Hank. Actually, let's do Cabot. I want to put Cabot in B. So he has a rail gun, which you can see. It can shoot through anything in any map, so literally just through everything. So that can be helpful at times. And it does a decent amount of damage for, you know, a one-hit bullet, if you will. And then his other thing is essentially a marking area. So think of it like a trapper ability. He essentially calls down like a, I don't even know what it's called. It's like dust or some shit that comes down and marks this area, and if the monster's in it, then the monster's marked for a few seconds. So it's nice if you have kind of a shitty trapper or someone that can't find them as well, or just to keep them tagged for a decent amount of time, but it's not always very good, and obviously it's not guaranteed to hit anything. And the biggest reason that carries him even into B, because honestly is probably one of the lesser supports in the game in my opinion, but he does have a damage amplifier, which is amazing. So if you can definitely hit up your assault teammate and they see that you're running the damage amplifier, the monsters take a lot more damage, obviously, from everything. So that can definitely turn the tide on a fight as well. So it's super nice to have that and do some heavy damage to the monster for a few seconds. But that's the biggest thing in his kit that's the most useful for sure. Let's see. We'll go Hide. I think Hide is a B assault unit too, honestly. I just don't feel like he does that much damage, much like Markov. I think he's good at every range. Again, just kind of like Markov. So Hide has a flamethrower, so close range. It does pretty decent damage, but honestly you mostly want to use it for a few seconds and then take it off and let the fire do you know, burning residual damage more than just hold the fire on them forever. And then he has a minigun, which is good at any distance obviously, but it does decent damage, but honestly nothing insane. It doesn't feel like you're doing a whole lot with it. And then he has like some toxic grenades, which Again, the reason why he's in B is honestly probably because of these, and it does a little bit of damage to the monster, nothing crazy, but the problem is that any other hunter, I'm not sure if yourself counts or not, but at least your teammates that run through this are actually slowed as well, so it can definitely cause some issues. And again, for the little bit of damage it does, it's not worth the risk, in my opinion. Now in Arena, you know, some of these people are better in certain game modes. I would say Hyde is one of the better assault characters in Arena because he can just keep throwing those and do some heavy damage no matter the range. But in Hunt, which is the most basic evolved game mode, you're going to need some damage help, in my opinion, with some other people. Let's do Poster Boy Goliath. I think he's got to be S tier, honestly. I think he deserves it as far as his ability to fight at any range. So Goliath's abilities are a charge, which he just essentially charges forward and does damage to the people in front of him. Nothing crazy. And this version of Goliath, which is Meteor Goliath, does that, but damage you with fire at the same time. Meteor Goliath is much better than regular Goliath, by the way. Like, way too good. Better. And then they both have Leap Smash, which is kind of how it sounds. You jump up in the air and, you know, jump to area and smash them. Obviously, you have to hit that to do anything, but it's nice to cover distance, and you can use it to get away as well, just as a leap in general. And obviously this one just does more fire damage. Fire Breath, I think that explains itself. And then a rock throw. So you pick up a rock and you can aim it if you want. And then obviously you can hit multiple hunters as well in the area, or one of them is flying, you can knock them down. But Meteor Goliath is honestly just a better version of regular Goliath because he just does so much more damage. I don't think he has any more health or anything like that, but his damage output compared to regular Goliath is honestly much more disgusting. To me, anyway. Now, I do not remember either of these two. I think this is actual stage 2 evolve, which all of this is, but so this version of Maggie, Blitz Markov, and this Hank, and Elder Kraken and Meteor Goliath are all in regular evolve, and the rest variations like this Electro Griffin and Glacier Behemoth and everything are in Evolve Stage 2, so I don't remember playing with either of these, so unfortunately we're just going to put them in B because I don't want to mess with them, because I don't have anything to say about them. So, since we kind of brought up these two, we'll go with Griffin. Griffin, honestly, I have to put in B as well. SMG, little to no damage virtually, and then his sound spikes are iffy. He's a questionable trapper, but he is better throughout the whole game than most. So what he does is he puts a sound spike down, can put up to 3, and it covers a pretty decent amount of the area of the map. And then any time that the monster essentially runs through there and makes noise through there, it will be pinged and tracked for a few seconds after and during that area, as long as they're by it, staying in it, and once they leave, they're tracked for a few more seconds. But it's nice, but it can be hard because, one, the monster or any wildlife can destroy it, as well as if the monster never goes through there, then you'll never know. So it can be difficult to use. And then his harpoon gun is honestly pretty nice, so he just shoots it and you yourself are essentially controlling the harpoon and trying to control the monster. Unlike Maggie's harpoon traps that she just puts on the ground that will then shoot at the monster when it comes by it. So there is an upside to that a little bit, and he reloads it pretty quick, so you can do it pretty constantly. And if the monster doesn't hit these harpoons, or the lines of them I should say, then they're essentially going to remain stuck or very immobile until they do. So it's nice to have that. But his upside is there, especially if they keep hitting the sound spikes and they don't know. But the downside is there because obviously if they don't, or they destroy them or whatever, then he's pretty lackluster. So we'll just do Electro Griffin, which is the same Griffin but just electrified. So his SMG does a little bit of electricity damage as well as his harpoon gun, and that's it. So essentially just kind of like Wasteland Maggie. Everything that original Maggie does, she just does with fire. He just does with electricity. So nothing insane. More damage, but you know, nothing insanely better. And then we'll do yeah, we'll just go ahead and do Hank. I'll put Hank in A. I think he deserves it because of the biggest thing, which is his shield barrier that he gives. So he has a device that he holds that he essentially gives other hunters shield. The shield has the same amount of health as a regular hunter and can be destroyed. So, you know, once the monster breaks through that, then they'll start doing damage. But it's very difficult to deal with as a monster because you're essentially having to go through 2% of health for one to down someone. Obviously, you can just stop hitting that person, but he can just transfer it to someone else, or you can just go after him and he can't give it to himself, which is great. But that can definitely save people from going down, definitely allow people to be healed by others to get their health back up, and everything like that. So it's very, very good. His main weapon's a laser cutter. It doesn't do crazy amount of damage, but nothing, it's just moderate, solid damage, nothing crazy, nothing bad either. And honestly, the biggest reason why he's not an S, which the biggest thing that carries him with it is his shield, but he has an orbital barrage. Now, if you can hit this, it does massive damage. The problem is it's very easy to evade, or if you do get hit, start getting hit by it, it's not hard to get out of it, obviously. And the problem is a lot of areas he can't even call it in, because if you're in a cave or, you know, there's something above you, obviously you cannot call orbital barrage in, nor will it get through it. So the downside is pretty big on one of his most damaging abilities. So, but still, even just if you just take the shield itself, he's definitely worth it. And I think that's the biggest reason why Tech Sergeant Hank is an S as well. So he actually has like a laser that comes from the sky instead of an orbital barrage, and the laser actually follows the monster, which is great, so it'll continuously try to keep doing damage. Again, the problem is if you're in a cave or in an area where there's something above you, you can't call it in, or where the monster is, you can't call it in. But his shield is a little different. So what he does is, the longer that, when original Hank gives the hunter a shield, he has to hold it on to them, obviously, but it has full health. Tech Sergeant Hank, when you start using the shield on a hunter, it actually goes up. So he has the potential to give everyone a lot of shield and essentially have everybody walking around with full shield before the fight even happens. But the problem is that it has to regen, so if someone's already being damaged, this isn't really going to save them. It's more of just, you know, kind of get ready for shit to happen, or, you know, if someone's not being targeted, who might be a high value target like a medic or a trapper, then he can save them. a lot better. But yeah, that's the biggest reason why he's not an S, is the potential again is there for both Hanks, but a lot of things kind of keep him out. So we will finish with Kraken. Kraken goes an A. His kit just doesn't fully feel good. And the biggest thing is you can obviously fly with him, which is great, or you can just be close to the hunters and melee them with your hands and shit. But flying is the best way to use Kraken because he can also throw some lightning balls at them. The problem is a lot of his abilities are somewhat like Wraith in the sense of they don't always work for him. So he has Banshee Mines, which don't do shit for damage and can be destroyed if the hunters see them. Vortex, which is just essentially pushing the hunters away or to an area. Nice to maybe get away or create some distance or separation or make a hunter by themselves. It's decent, but it's not gonna do. I don't even know if it does any damage, but if it does, it's very little. It's mostly just for, you know, moving them however you see fit. And then Aftershock, which is you have to essentially be very close, almost in melee range, to do this chain lightning effect to everyone. It does do a pretty good amount of damage, and if the other people that aren't close to you are close enough to the hunters that you're hitting with it, will also get shocked. It'll chain to them, so there's big potential there. And then the biggest thing that carries him is definitely his lightning strike. It does massive damage and can hit multiple targets, which is great. Sometimes it is somewhat easy to get away from if you're paying enough attention or have enough jetpack mobility or something, but it is massive amount of damage, and him being able to either fly or be in melee range with you, and a lot of his abilities go with that, is nice. I just think that he is a little inconsistent to use, because if you get close, you only have like one or two abilities that really work. If you're far away, same thing. So it's kind of hard to play in and out, as well as depending on what kind of hunter team you're facing. Elder Kraken, on the other hand, I have to give to S tier. This dude does so much more damage than regular Kraken. So he has Banshee Mine still. He has Aftershock still, and he has a little bit of a different lightning strike, but it's essentially the same. All do, I believe, a little bit more damage, but even if they don't, the biggest thing that carries him, instead of having the pushing vortex, he has a death spiral now. So he almost shoots like more of a cylindrical tornado in this area. Hunters are pulled in, but any hunter that's already affected is getting dealt massive damage by standing in it, and he can pop it so often, and it does a huge area too. He's crazy, as well as being able to obviously fly and do damage from a distance and melee. It's nasty. That death spiral puts him up there for sure. Probably the most damaging thing in the game, I would say. One of them, if not the lightning strike. So, worth it for sure. But, yeah, there's not really a bad thing to say about Elder Kraken, to be honest. So let's see. We will do regular Vowel. Regular Vowel I'll put in A. So she has a sniper rifle. It does do a hit points, much like we talked about with Lazarus. She creates a hit point that, if other people shoot at it, will do more damage. It does decent damage, but nothing crazy, and it's not the main thing you want to focus on as a medic. She does have a tranquilizer dart as well, so it highlights and slows the monster. It does a tiny bit of damage, but nothing, I mean, like, I'm talking minimal. But it's mostly just to slow the monster as well as highlight them. And then she has a med gun, so her med gun does a pretty solid amount of healing. It's only one target, but you can also, like I said earlier, pick someone up from the ground with it. It does take a little bit of time. It's probably about the same speed as if you would just go over and revive them, but sometimes it's easier to do it from a distance because, you know, maybe the monsters kind of guard them a little bit. But I think overall she's useful. If you need a little bit more damage, she's there. If you kind of need the monster to be highlighted a little bit, if from the trappers not doing their job as much, she's there. And she, I would say, has the most consistent healing. There's, you know, as long as you have the med gun out, like, you're good. You know, it's not like you're missing the healing labs with Kyra, or relying on damage with Slim, or the drone being hit or something. You know, just hold the med gun out and you'll be alright. So she definitely deserves at least A. Definitely not an S, but I'll give her an A for sure. Now Rogue Vowel, I'll give an A as well. So Rogue Vowel has the same sniper, but you can shoot it 3 times, which is great. And what I mean by 3 times, actually I think it's twice. I think it's like a double shot type of deal. Does do hit points as well. And then she actually has, instead of trank darts, she has poison darts. So a little bit more damage, and I believe still does highlight the monster, but nothing too crazy insane, but still, you know, if you kind of need some more damage, there it is. And then her med gun is actually different. So her med gun affects multiple targets. They have to be close to the person that you're originally hitting, if that makes sense. Kind of like Mercy in Overwatch, you know, like her ult can now heal multiple people, but they have to kind of be within range of the person you're kind of originally attached to. So it can be helpful. I think it's a better version of Kyra, to be honest, as far as like being able to heal multiple targets, but it's not that much because it's healing multiple. But the potential's still there. Now it does take even longer to med gun revive someone from this because the healing is so little on a single target, but you know, still being able to do it as well as affect other targets is honestly great as well, because you're still getting some healing out to the people that are still fighting while reviving someone. So there's that potential as well. Definitely solid. Nothing bad to say. Parnell. I'll give Parnell an A. So Parnell has a rocket launcher. Sometimes hard to consistently hit, but does do massive damage when he does hit, and you can shoot like 8 at a time, I think. Semi-automatically, obviously. Then he has a combat shotgun, so good at any distance, like almost every, actually all assault characters. You do have to click it, semi-auto, but it shoots fast. And then the biggest downside to him, and why I honestly can't put him in S, is his super soldier ability. So he can shoot and reload both of his weapons much faster. The problem is it costs him health. So if you feel alright with how much health you have already, or how good your healer is doing, medic, whatever, then go for it. You're going to be dishing out an insanely more amount of damage. But like I said earlier, health in this game is super important. I mean, if you can keep everyone alive, eventually you'll do enough damage to the monster, and that's just how it is. Hopefully. But The downside is that if you don't have a good medic, or you're already kind of low on health, but you're risking it, the risk is there, but the reward is there as well. He definitely deserves an A period, but I can't put him in S because of the super soldier taking some of his health away. It's not that much. I think it's only like 10 to 20%, but you know, if you've been downed a few times, or you know, again, your medic is even dead, then how worth it is it? So Paladin Parnell, I never played with him, but I know that, so I can't put him anywhere else, but he's actually a medic, so they switch him. Instead of being an assault, he actually went to medic, and I believe they actually did this. This is Renegade Abe, but I believe they made him an assault character, not a trapper, if I remember correctly. But anyway, he actually, his rocket launcher is healing balls, much like Kyra's. I never played with him, so I can't put him anywhere else other than B, which I'll just give to him. But it's interesting that they kind of switch some people around as far as different classes, but being the same person. So there's that. We will go with Jack, our last trapper. I'm gonna unfortunately put him in B as well. He has dual-wield pistols, which don't do that much damage. And then he actually has this thing where he can stop the monster in place. It is somewhat hard to use and hit, and it only lasts a few seconds. But if you can hit it, it is super nice and helpful, especially for, you know, a mobile monster, or they're getting in your face specifically, or you're trying to protect a certain teammate / hunter. It's nice, but it only lasts a few seconds and is honestly hard to situate correctly to stop the monster. His tracking is one of the better ones, I would say, but still not that great. So what he does is he puts like a totem down that essentially circles in a bigger and bigger area. So it will highlight monster tracks, dead wildlife, and things like that. So it can be useful, but the problem is you have to essentially wait for it to get bigger. So if you don't really know where the monster is going or anything, it can be at least take longer to find it. He's decent. I would say in orders of trapper, it definitely goes Maggie for sure. Then I would honestly say, as far as tracking ability, I would probably say either, honestly, all three of these are pretty even. Just kind of depends on what you want as far as damage and utility. And then Abe is the worst for sure. Abe is more of an arena trapper, being able to slow the monster and do decent damage. But yeah, I would put Jack here. I just don't think he has the potential to go to A, because he's just okay at everything he does, but he's not like over the top at anything. We'll go Torvald, our last assault. I think I have to put him in A. I just don't think he is worthy of an S. And I would say the biggest reason is his mortars. So he actually has little mortar ability, which is not hard to hit. If there is a roof, he can still use it, unlike Hank and other people, but it's harder to use. But it does do decent damage if you can hit it. Obviously, if the monster's moving around a lot, it's not there and you're not going to hit it, which is probably why he's not an S for me. But he does have a combat auto shotgun, so as soon as you hit the trigger, it unloads its full clip, so you have, and it reloads pretty quick as well, so you have high potential of close range damage there for sure. And the thing that can even help you further is his other ability, which is actually like a I don't remember what they called it, but they're essentially it's essentially like an armor piercing grenade. So he throws this little like disc grenade out that explodes and creates armor points. The grenade itself does a little bit of damage, nothing crazy, but it creates all these armor points that we've talked about previously a few times now that will be great for his auto combat shotgun. Now the auto combat shotgun reaches very, very far, which is great, but with these added armor points, armor piercing points all over him now, if you throw the grenade out for yourself and the teammates, his shotgun can do a massive amount of damage very quickly. So I think he is the best utility assault as far as helping your teammates do even more damage with all these armor piercing points. And then lastly, we have to go Emmett. So what Emmett does is he has a volley. So he shoots 1 point. Sorry about the dog. Shoots 1 point at the monster, and then the rest of his volley essentially is almost like a guided missile and follows it and shoots it as well. I think it's like 3 to 5 little missiles. So he does a pretty good amount of damage if he can hit the full volley, which you only have to shoot it once. As long as you hit the monster that time, it will just track the monster the rest of the time. Obviously, if the monster goes behind something, it will hit that instead, unfortunately. But the potential for damage is there. And the biggest reason why I can't put him in S is this, is his respawn beacon, which you would think is very good, and it can be. The problem is that if for some reason other people are dead already and that's why you're using it, you're going to be targeted, period, because you're the medic, okay? Like, it is so hard to actually use this because you're going to be targeted that it's almost worthless, as well as it can be destroyed before. So I think if a hunter dies, I think it's like, I honestly forget how many minutes it is until they can naturally respawn. The respawn beacon is 30 seconds, which is great. The problem is it can be destroyed, and if someone is dead, the monster is probably coming after you anyway. So it's hard to use. The downfall is ginormous. The upside is ginormous. But the biggest thing about Emmett is his healing buoys. So he can throw out 3. If you stand near the buoy, it automatically heals you. But the great thing about Emmett is when he casts his medic ability, which is the heal burst. So the heal burst for all medics is just the area around the medic bursts out health. But when he uses his heal burst, the healing buoys do the same heal burst area effect. So it's essentially 4 medic heal bursts for 1 person. Not for 1, but you know, it in each area. You know, if you throw a healing buoy over there for somebody, or you know, somebody's fallen back, or you know, you just kind of throw 3 in this big circle area to do massive area effect heal. That's great. His healing potential is enormous. Obviously the buoys can be destroyed like virtually anything in the game. But the healing potential he has for single or multiple targets is one of the best in the game. He does pretty decent amount of damage, but the fall off is the respawn. You're not always even going to be able to use it anyway, because again, most of the time they're going to be attacking you or someone else that's high value, but you're definitely a top 2 choice to get killed. So that is my evolved tier list. I miss this game. I wish it was still going on. Unfortunately, it's not. But do not forget to like and subscribe, obviously, and let me know what you guys think. Where you guys would play some other people. But that will be all. Thank you for watching.